Welcome back to another video. Fellas, 25 RPM is in the house. Finally have some brass and ammo. This is going to be fun. So today we're going to look at the 25 RPM, all of its ballistics, and we're going to compare it to one of the most popular 6.5 cartridges around, the 6.5 PRC. Can a 25 Weatherby RPM hang with a 6.5 PRC? That's what we're going to find out today. Some of you might be wondering, if Reloading Weatherby hasn't shot the 25 Weatherby RPM, how is he going to really compare it to 6.5 PRC? I've been busy, and I made a 25 Weatherby RPM profile in GRT. I think it's pretty accurate. This weekend, I'm going to really find out how accurate it is when I do a ladder test with the Barnes ELD-X. But we're basically going to use GRT to do our cartridge comparison. Now let's talk a little bit of the dimensions for the 6.5 PRC. Obviously, this cartridge came out in 2018, and really, since then, it is just blown up. It is extremely popular, maybe one of the most popular 6.5 hunting cartridges around. But as far as dimensions go, this is a short-action cartridge. The water grain capacity, funny enough, is very similar to 30-06 and 270 Winchester. So we're looking at water grain capacity around 68 grains for the 6.5 PRC. Now, when we go to the 25 Weatherby RPM, the parent case to this is obviously the 6.5 Weatherby RPM, which its parent case is the 284 Winchester. Now, 25 RPM might be a little closer to what 284 Winchester is, but it basically has the same case capacity as the 25-06 AI. You can really think of the 25 Weatherby RPM as a modernized 25-06 AI. So the water grain capacity for the 25 Weatherby RPM is 72.5. So we're looking at around 4.5, maybe 5 grains more of case capacity than a 6.5 PRC. Now let's go ahead and look at the potential ballistics of the 25 Weatherby RPM with the new Barnes ELD-X, that 117 grain. Now for this comparison, we're going to use 24-inch barrels for both cartridges. Now I'm going to use N560. I think it's, especially with a 24-inch barrel, about the ideal powder for this. You could go a little slower, but your window of 100% burnt propellant is much smaller. We are looking at, with a 24-inch barrel, a top velocity of around 3,280 feet per second at 65,000 PSI. That's pretty darn good and pretty darn flat shooting. Now here we are with the 6.5 PRC, again, 24-inch barrel. We're going to use the same type of bullet. And this is the ELD-X, the 127 grain. And funny enough, we're going to use the same exact powder, N560. And at 65,000 PSI, we are basically at 3,195 feet per second. So which one comes out on top when we go down range? Let's see. Let's start with the 6.5 PRC, 127 ELD-X with velocity at 3,195 feet per second. 2,879 foot-pounds of energy, 300 yards, 2,588 feet per second, 1,890 foot-pounds at 600. This is probably about the limit you want to be at. By the way, this is at sea level. All of this data will be at sea level. 2,056 feet per second and 1,193 foot-pounds. As far as foot-pounds go, that's good enough for deer at 600. And then this is MOA and drop 10.32 and 3.93 wind adjustment with a 10 mile per hour wind. All right, here is the 25 Weatherby RPM with the 117 ELD-X. As I said, with some slower burning powder, you could up the velocity a little bit, 3,300 feet per second. We are at 2,830 foot-pounds of energy, really close to what the 6.5 PRC is doing. At 300 yards, the bullet's going 2738 feet per second, so about 150 feet per second faster. And we already have more energy than the 6.5 PRC at 300. 1,947 foot-pounds. Not a huge difference, like 60, but it's there. At 600, the bullet's going almost 200 feet per second faster. So this, at least as far as mono bullets, is going to be better at long range. We have a little more than 100 more foot-pounds of energy. It's pretty darn good. Now, how about the drop? We are looking at 9.16 MOA, so a little over MOA advantage in drop, and then 3.30. So all around, if you're going to shoot mono bullets, 25 RPM kind of easily beats 6.5 PRC. Now, 25 caliber bullets are pretty limited with at least the high BC versions, but Hornady last year came out with a 128 ELD-X, and of course in 6.5 PRC, probably the most popular hunting bullet in it is the 143 ELD-X. So let's go ahead and compare those. Again, 24-inch barrel at sea level. You're going to top out at 3,060 feet per second, 2,974 foot-pounds of energy, 300 yards, 2612 feet per second, 2,166 foot-pounds. At 600, bullets going 2205 feet per second and 1,544 foot-pounds of energy. And then 10.27 MOA in drop and 2.96 in wind drift. Pretty darn good when you hand load it to its true performance. Potential, I should say. 25 Weatherby RPM. The new 128 ELD-X, it actually has just the slightest better BC than the 143 ELD-X in 6.5. Muzzle velocity of, again, this is an estimate, 3,200 feet per second. I think you can do it. 2,911 foot-pounds of energy, so a little bit less than 6.5 PRC. At 300, we're going 2,743 feet per second, so over 100 feet per second advantage. 2,139 foot-pounds of energy. It's still going to be a little behind, but at 600, the bullet's going well over 100 feet per second faster. And, well, it's basically identical energy numbers. So again, at least out to 600 yards. The 25 Weatherby RPM is going to be flatter. As you can see, 9.22 MOA in drop. A little bit better wind drift. And I know what everyone really wants is to make sure you have enough velocity for the bullet to expand. You're going to get that better in a 25 Weatherby RPM with the same amount of energy. Now let's use the burger bullets. Now this one's not the 133 EOL. This is actually a 135 hybrid target. How does the 25 Weatherby RPM stack up against 6.5 PRC as kind of a recreational target cartridge? Let's see. All right, we're going to go through this pretty quickly. 144 hybrid target, 3,060 feet per second. I've included the energy just for fun. I don't think you should be hunting with these bullets. But at 500 yards, bullets going 2367. This is going to be in mils, not MOA, 2.21 mils. That's 10 mile per hour wind, mil adjustment, 0.66, okay? Now out to 1,000 yards, the bullet's going 1,775 feet per second, 6.61 mils, and then 1.52. Not too shabby. Let's go to that 25 Weatherby RPM, 135, topping out at 3,120 feet per second, 2,918 foot-pounds. We're going to ignore the energy. At 500 yards, bullets going 2413, 2.11 mils, and 0.65. So the wind drift is going to be basically identical and just the slightest of advantage in drop for the 25 Weatherby RPM. At 1,000 yards, bullets going 1809 feet per second, and we are at 6.34 mils compared to 6.61. So again, a slight advantage. And then 1.49 wind adjustment compared to 1.52. For target shooting, it's not a huge difference. And then when you factor in that in the 6.5 PRC, you have a lot more target bullet options and higher BC options. Now, the 6.5 PRC is probably going to be a better target cartridge for you. To recap, the 25 Weatherby RPM is just a little bit flatter shooting than a 6.5 PRC. And with select bullets that are available in both cartridges, the 25 Weatherby RPM has the slightest of advantage. So you're going to get around the same energy with like the ELD-X and a little bit flatter trajectory and a little bit flatter velocity. As far as the mono bullets go, 25 Weatherby RPM kind of mops the floor with the 6.5 PRC. And then lastly, for target shooting, I'm going to say the 6.5 PRC is a more logical choice. Now up next, I want to compare the most popular 25 caliber to the new guy. So on the left is a 25-06 Remington. Obviously on the right is 25 Weatherby RPM. There's not a huge difference, but about a 5 grain, maybe 6 grain case capacity difference. And I know a lot of 25-06 Remington guys are kind of skeptical. Is it really worth it to switch from 25-06 to a 25 Weatherby RPM? We'll find out next time. Thanks guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.